One very bold sentence that if Ayurveda was useless, it would have vanished 5,000 years back, but it is not.
The new age medicine is nothing but a subset of it. It's just that probably it's too ancient. I would say that's why maybe it got lost. But I think when the core problems come, it is the right time to reference it back. What was the root? Where did we get it? How did it come?
What if I said that many inventions, many discoveries that modern science is doing, it is not discovering, but it is rediscovering what Ayurveda has quietly telling us from many thousand years ago.
How does our Ayurveda talks about the body type? Now, how do we treat this? Because we are talking about millions of people, right? Every person would be different.
If you are not taking care of your sense organ, it is allowing disease inside your body. So men health is most of the time is neglected because they are very much invested in their careers. They are busy in earning, but at the same time they are not aware that they are breaking down silently.
Welcome everyone to the another inspiring episode of the EST show. Today we are going to dive into a topic that impacts all of us, our health, our food, our choices and daily habits. To help us answer these questions and answer questions on ancient wisdom of Ayurveda, I am honored to have with us Dr. Rupali Panse, who is an Ayurvedic physician, integrative nutrition expert, and internationally recognized educator. She is a successful practitioner and a celebrated author. She's been working for over more than 2 decades, helping people to achieve better health with a powerful combination of traditional Ayurvedic wisdom and modern nutrition science. Do watch this episode till the end. You're going to get very key inputs and the lifestyle changes that you should do because Ayurveda, it's not just another medical stream, it is a way of life, it's a way our humans are designed. Welcome to the EST show, Rupali ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you with us. मैम आपका ना एक्सटेंसिव रिसर्च है इन आयुर्वेदा एंड यू हैव आल्सो मेड लॉट ऑफ प्रोग्रेस इन द सेम फील्ड इन यूएस एज वेल सो इट्स वेरी नाइस टू नो कि हमारी जो इंडिया की एंशिएंट नॉलेज है आप बाहर जाकर के भी आपने उसमें काम किया है सो टू स्टार्ट विद आई वुड लाइक टू अंडरस्टैंड द वेरी बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट हालांकि बहुत बार इसको रिपीट किया गया होगा बट स्टिल फॉर द ऑडियंस I want to know that people think that Ayurveda is ancient wisdom, while there are conflicts when we talk about it in the modern scientific sense. So, how do you see this? The ancient wisdom bridging the gap where we are coming in modern science today, and what do you have to say about it?
Sure. First of all, hello everyone. Hello Smarvi. I'm excited to be here and thank you for having me today. And your question is very relevant. I have to answer these questions quite a lot of a time in conferences, in debate. Even my friends and relatives ask me that. I would like to start with one very bold sentence that if Ayurveda was useless, it would have vanished 5,000 years back, but it is not.
Right, right.
Yeah. But again, if we treat Ayurveda like magic, then also we are missing the point.
Hmm.
So, what is
Okay.
Ayurveda? I would like to tell people who are seeking answers on the base of evidence, like, evidence based, they need answers like that. So, I would like to present Ayurveda in a way that Ayurveda is a well documented science. It is ancient, but it is well documented. At the same time, it is the start of personalized and lifestyle medicine system. So, it is a proven science for sure. But
Okay.
again, yeah, I will say that traditional medicine every time claims something. So uh is it shall we blindly follow that? I differ. We should not. But at the same time, neglecting the centuries of knowledge, pressure of observational science, ignoring that is also not scientific. So
Okay.
somewhere we have to bridge that gap. And that is the practice I'm doing here in America, integrative medicine, integrative Ayurveda nutrition, where I believe bridging the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda along with the evidence-based science. And together we can offer a very holistic solutions that are evidence-based also. And Ayurveda doctors or Ayurveda science is not against the modern science, but we are waiting for modern science to catch up with some concept of Ayurveda and challenge some concept so that both sciences can go together hands in hand for the benefit of humanity and health.
Super, super. So it's a great thing that you're bridging the gap. And basically, I understand that the our ancient Ayurveda and the scientific evidence and the medicines that we have right now. So basically, bridging the gap. We should say probably they're complementing each other. The
Absolutely.
and the new age medicine is nothing but a subset of it. It's just that probably it's too ancient. I would say that's why maybe it got lost, like it happens. But I think when the core problems come, it is the right time to reference it back. What was the root? Where did we get it? How did it come? So that's very interesting. So, man, you talked about scientific evidence. So, how is Ayurveda now being validated by modern nutrition? And I've come across the term microbiome research. What is it? So, how are you basically, validating it? How does modern nutrition talk about it? And what is it,
Okay, that's an
microbiome
interesting
research?
question. Yeah, that's an interesting and important question, Smarty. What if I said that many inventions, many discoveries that modern science is doing, it is not discovering, but it is rediscovering what Ayurveda has quietly telling us from many thousand years ago. Take an example of gut microbiome.
What is
It
it?
is
I would like
back.
to understand. What does it mean?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
It is the major validation by nutritional science and gut microbiome research, which bring us back to the gut. Everything starts from the gut is the new trend. But Ayurveda has already focused on the gut health and gut as a center, as a heart of health. Everything starts from gut is written in Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is a well-documented science which backs gut health. Even before we were speaking the words like gut microbiome, inflammation, circadian rhythm, or stress and hormones, because everything is again connected with the gut. Rather, your food, sleep, your daily habits, they have tremendous impact on gut health, and your gut health in return have impact on your physical and mental health. And Ayurveda already backed that concept of gut health. To make it more interesting, I will also try to bring other discoveries that modern science is backing and confirming, which are from Ayurveda, which is nutrigenomics. Now, nutrigenomics is nothing but different people respond differently to the same food. For example, if you are eating so-called healthy food, few people can respond it to positively in terms of increased energy levels and recovery speed, or having healthy benefits. At the same time, same food can have impact on other person differently. He may feel tired, inflamed, bloated, or constipated. Why? Because of your unique body type, because of your unique metabolic type.
And
These
that is a
these
very
re-
interesting thing.
yeah,
Uh,
these responses are based on your genetic makeup and your metabolism.
That is very interesting. In fact, I had this question later, but since you brought it up, so I'll ask it now. You said yes, the same water, the same medicine. I mean, it has different results on different people. So, why so? That was my question that you just answered. Because the same amount of exercise, if a person is doing, same amount of food eating, you'll see a weight difference or you'll see a height difference, you'll see energy level difference. So, how does our Ayurveda talks about the body type? Now, how do we treat this? Because we are talking about millions of people, right? Every person would be different. So, I mean, is it practically possible to have a personalized solution with for each person? So, what's the solution in this case? Because having a particular exercise routine, having a particular food routine is fixed, but everyone's body is different. Now, how do we tackle this?
Right, you're right. in practice also we need to think on that basis. It is very easy to individualize person, because if we know the genetic pattern, if we know the dosha pattern, we Ayurveda people called it as dosha prakriti. So if you know the unique constitution of that person, if you know what is the metabolic type of that person, then it is very easy to understand what food will be suitable for that person, what dinacharya, which is daily regime, will be beneficial for him. In fact, Smarti, Ayurveda is the science who promoted, which promoted the personalized health, individualized approach to the medicine system. And we keep an individual in the center and medicine and food around that person. On the
Absolutely.
contrary, modern science put food and medicine in the center, and it neglects the unique properties, unique characteristics that every individual is carrying. So, on that basis, also Ayurveda has very different approach, and we should ask. We should not ask rather what is the healthiest food. We should be asking what is the healthy food that will be suitable for my prakriti, my body type, my gut microbiome, and my biology.
Wow,
So
that's a beautiful
it's a
shift.
famous quote. What we are what we eat. It is very famous quote.
Yeah.
So I would like to boldly remodel that quote, that we are not what we eat, but we are how our body responds to what we eat. And that is the essence of Ayurveda nutrition.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I mean, I'm just imagining that keep the individual in center and rest all the environment, the medicines, the exercise routine, the work, everything is around that individual rather than having everything in the center and just making it fixed and putting it to the, just giving a fixed routine to everyone. That is very, very beautiful. And I think it's very much needed because we have been observing for if I go down last 10 years, there has been a craziness around, reducing weight, having skincare, and all these things have, increased as in rapid rate. But not everyone has the same result. So something has to be changed, right? In terms of how you look at the things. That's super, man. Ma'am, then apart from this, I also came across a very interesting term, which is Ayurvedic psychiatry. Now, what is this? We are talking about medicine, we are talking about food. Now, we are talking about Ayurveda psychiatry. What is this term?
Mainly, when people think about Ayurveda and psychiatry, they think that, okay, meditation, yoga, and some oils and massage is Ayurveda. No, but Ayurveda is beyond that. And Ayurveda psychiatry is a very wonderful niche area in Ayurvedic practice. And even before modern science identified the role of mental health, role of mind and body connection, Ayurveda has described the concept of physical health, mental health, and how your mind, body, soul, sense organs are connected with each other, and how you can use these modalities to keep yourself mentally healthy. And you will be very, very happy to know that Ayurveda is the first science which advocated that there is a close connection between your brain and gut. We talked about we talk about serotonin. The language is different. Modern science talk about serotonin, how serotonin is secreted more in the gut than brain, and how it has major impact on your happiness, mood swings, cravings, and whatnot, inflammation. But Ayurveda has connected these dots even before the modern science was able to identify. And Ayurveda has described the role of various foods in creating either balance in your mental body or imbalance in your mental body. And if you are aware of a term which is nutritional psychiatry, it is a very blooming branch which studies how nutrition can create mental disorders, and on the other hand, how you can use nutrition to treat mental disorders. And you will be amazed to read about how Ayurveda described various mental disorders, uh, depression, anxiety, mood swings. Everything is described in Ayurveda. Terminology is different, but symptoms are strikingly similar to modern mental disorders. And improving gut health, improving your dinacharya, which is how your daily activities, improving your stress management modalities, techniques, and bringing balance into your dosha, improving your diet, nutrition can bring amazing change in your mental health. And Ayurveda psychiatry is very much closer to my heart also. In fact, I have contributed few international publications which talk about gut microbiome, how it is related with the mental health, and how Ayurveda nutraceuticals and how Ayurveda nutrition can contribute in either preventing, managing, and restoring the mental health. So, if next time you hear Ayurveda psychiatry, definitely you will understand how holistically we approach to person's mind and how we keep the center. Uh, if we're talking about mental health, how we assess the physical health, how we relate the physical health with mental health, how we study their lifestyle, their food habits, and try to modulate that, and it gives amazing result basically.
Wow, this is so amazing. When I hear you say this about Ayurveda psychiatry, knowing the connection between mind, body, and soul, it seems to me that it's not even a medical science. It's a lifestyle. You just have to live that way. That's what I get from it. It's not something that you do it today, you leave it tomorrow. No, it's probably the lifestyle because you're talking about dincharya. You're talking about the food you eat. You're talking about the food which can basically what should I say affect your mood. So basically, it's something that you do daily. It's not a choice that you do it today or you don't do it tomorrow. Wow, it is very beautiful, ma'am. Um, Ma'am, if I need to identify the three major pillars, we'll come to as in what is important today because stress is too high. I mean, for mental peace, there's one thing that you need to have time for yourself. But now in this fast paced world, you understand that we are basically always occupied with something. Either it's work, it's mental work, or it's thoughts, or it's technology, it's what's so we're basically always occupied. So, I don't know if we can even go back, but that's the reality of today. So, if I have to ask for three major pillars, and what do we do to contribute this? I mean, in terms of food, daily routine, and mind, the three major pillars. I mean, if talking about today's scenario, if I talk about 100 years back, people were more relaxed, right? They may have had more time, but today it's not the case. So if I talk about today's case, how do these three major pillars, what should we do to balance them?
Absolutely, you are beautifully put this point, three major pillar. In fact, Ayurveda has a beautiful theory. Trayopastambha. Trayopastambha is nothing but the Sanskrit word for three pillars. So definitely food, your lifestyle, and your circadian rhythm are the three major pillars. We call it as Ahara, Nidra, and Brahmacharya. Ahara means your food and nutrition. Nidra means your sleep cycle. And Brahmacharya is right code of conduct. That means your lifestyle. So absolutely in modern world, people find it very difficult to balance these pillars. But trust me, it is very easy. If you have a very defined and disciplined routine, which Ayurveda always focus as a potent modality to prevent disorders and prevent health condition. So if you plan your day properly, you can definitely bring the balance into food, lifestyle, and your sleep. Talking about food, Smarty, you don't have to make it very complex. It is very easy. Rather, in my practice, my whole approach is to study the eating habits and study the food choices of my clients, and now I can help them to make very small changes, simple changes, and make some significant contribution in terms of nutrition. So try to understand your prakriti and try to have food according to your prakriti. Your food should be balanced. Your food should have prana in it. Your food should have energy in it. So simply fortified food or simply supplements is not the nutrition, but choosing food which is simple, which is clean, which is not processed is the first step you can take towards your strong pillar of health. And concentrate on micronutrients, not only on calories and fats. Uh, Properly include all types of micronutrients. Have good amount of fat which is not trans fat. So olive oil, cow ghee, these are the good form of fat. And many times young generation is missing on the goodness of fat. So on this platform, I will specifically want to highlight that it is really very important to include good fat if you want the micronutrients properly absorbed through your gut. So Talking about food, try to focus on meal timing. Meal timings are really very important because your circadian rhythm or your biological clock is a very strict um, clock, and it has extremely well organized metabolism relation. So when you are getting up, there are lots of things going on. Your enzymes, hormones are being secreted. So if you keep regular timings for your meal, for your sleeping, for your exercise, for your hobbies, and for your work. So it will be a amazing reset for all of your metabolism. Talking about lifestyle, it is very easy to manage even in the modern time and busy schedule. You just have to take 10 minutes out to do some dinnercharya technique. And in my practice, I make sure that I help my clients to design their early morning routine or design, even if they are working in shifts, if their profession demands working in the shifts, how I can help them to follow the Ayurveda routine. And coming back to mind health is also very important. So take some time out to talk with yourself. You are not a emergency responder, so sit peacefully, mindfully, identify the signs that your body, your mind is trying to telling you in advance. And by doing very simple measures, by following a strict and a nice daily routine, you can bring the balance between these three pillars.
Super. I think I really like the last point that you mentioned about that we are not in an emergency routine. I think that's very important, and we all need to understand that probably in today's time we have made everything as an emergency, and that's probably what is burning out. If you got a message, respond now. If you got an email, respond. It's not important. I mean, even if it gets delayed, I think we are always in emergency mode somehow, uh, getting late for a function, some very simple things, right? It's not priority and it burns us down somehow. So, a very important point said that we have to click off that emergency button. Emergency, it's what should I say? False emergencies that we have created for ourselves. They don't exist in the real world. Super. Ma'am, coming down, we talked about that every individual is different, and their prakriti has to be probably identified by a proper Ayurveda consultant. And I'm sure there are enough multiple tools today available in the world where probably if individuals want, they can go ahead and check their prakriti themselves as well. But on a holistic level, I would like to understand uh, for generally for men, women, children. I mean, if there's something common, keeping the prakriti aside because we can't judge that right now, what would be the common things that should be followed by men, by women, by children by default? So we can go over them one by one. So we can start with men.
Yes, yes. Regardlessly of age and prakriti, there are some protocols that Ayurveda advocates. That is, first is dinacharya. I talked about importance of meal timings, importance of getting up early in the morning, importance of going to bed early is really matters because it shapes your circadian rhythm. But to bring all these science and all this knowledge together and provide some guidelines for all age groups, I would like to concentrate on, take care of your sense organ, because sense organ is the gateway of the knowledge. Rather, it connects you to the external world. It helps you to understand what's going on. It basically it is a gateway of knowledge and perception. So taking care of your sense organ is very important. Ayurveda advocates your sense organ as gateway of disease also. If you are not taking care of your sense organ, it is allowing disease inside your body. So always take care of your sense organs. Do not abuse them. For example, straining your eyes is the abuse of sense organ. um, not taking care of your skin is the abuse of skin. Eating which is not suitable for your body is abuse of sense organ. Tongue. So try to understand what is good for your sense organ, what is not good for your sense organ. And dinacharya helps you doing that. For example, we advocate oil pulling. Oil pulling is very much in trend now. It is excellent for your mouth, it is excellent for your nose, It is also excellent for your eyes. Then there is Nasya, using herbal powder as soap can also be a very good addition in your daily regime. At the same time, hydration is important, but how water should not be consumed is also very important, because sometimes people end up drinking unnecessary and excessive water, which will not going to help at all. Water can hydrate your body, but water is not solution as detoxifying agent, because many clients are coming to, in my practice I observe that, oh, I drink 2 liters of water before my lunch so that it will flush out a toxin. No, it is not a right thing to do. So even mindfully consuming water can also be a very important guideline for all age groups.
Thank you so much for your inputs and how we should really work on our senses and take care of them and understand what suits our senses and not actually abuse them. Moving ahead, getting a little more granular, I would like to understand that for each category, male, female, children, as a general guidelines, what should we do and not do? Just if I have to talk about the top three things a men should do or not do. So let's talk about that. Let's start with men.
With men, okay, okay, we can start definitely. So men health is most of the time is neglected, because men are, they are very much invested in their careers. They are busy in earning, but at the same times they are not aware that uh, they are breaking down silently. And I guess they are behind a nice retirement plan, and they think that it is a shared plan. But by doing so, at the same time, they are moving one by one brick from their health account. And it is very serious issue, because most of the times they drag themselves, even they are exhausted, even their body is exhausted, and they think that, okay, I'm working, so I'm healthy. But sometimes body need to remind them by creating a emergency, right? And that is not a good sign. So for men health, I would definitely uh, want to bring the attention to some alarming signs, which are fatigue with belly fat around, fat around waist, fat around thighs, elevated sugar levels, then anxiety, uh, mood changes. Yes, mood changes are also very common in men. Many times we are not able to identify those. Um, Fatigue is the first sign we should be aware of. And if you are finding indigestion, bloating, constipation, then elevated BP, blood pressure, then they are alarming sign, and you have to be very much aware of that. And if you are able to observe these signs for 3 to 6 months, this is the right time to provide attention to all your health condition. And as general guidelines, I will I want to focus on three main things. Again, sleep, stress management, and nutrition, because recovery is very important. And one of the segment in men's health is testosterone hormone, because many times it's not just stamina and good physique is equal to health, but your hormonal health is also important. And in men, testosterone is the main hormone, and it does not only contribute to masculinity of the men, but it also contribute into the energy levels, into the muscle mass. It is important for wear and tear process. It is important for healing process. It is important for bone and joints, and it is also important for the libido and overall general energy levels. So nutrition and good recovery is very important for men. Stress management is very important. So again, take time out for physical movement. Identify your prakriti, whether yoga is suitable for you, or cardio is suitable for you, or weight training, and make sure that you are moving your body regularly, you are eating healthy, you are giving enough time for your body and mind to heal, and to replenish whatever wear and tear is going on. So recovery is also very important. And you were asking about female and child health also. So, regarding child health, again, nutrition is the basic foundation of any child health. So, concentrate on food, which is not only high calorie, which is not only empty calories, but which also provides loads of micronutrients, fibers, and main concept from Ayurveda is prana. That food basically should hold the prana. What is prana? Prana means that food is living food, right? So it has to be fresh. It has to be unadulterated and is in its natural form. And according to Ayurveda, children's tendency is towards the kapha prakriti. So kapha dosha is dominant in children. So you will see lots of cough, common cold, and allergic health conditions in children. So dealing with the kapha and giving them food which is not kapha increasing is also very important. Right now, I am working on a book which is totally dedicated to child health and Ayurveda. And in that book, we are going to talk about all these aspects, that what symptoms parents should observe and how Ayurveda looks towards the childhood, and how nourishment, how sanskaras, how parenting can change the, shaping up those childs. And I guess in children, creating environment, rather creating conducive environment where they can express their emotions, where they can express their insecurities, fears properly with the parents, can also help with their mental growth, personality development, and keeping their physical and mental health healthy. Creating a nice defined daily routine is also very important for child health, so that their bowel habits will be regular, their circadian system will be good, and it will help for the growth and nourishment.
Super.
Talking about female health, yeah,
No,
please
no,
go
I
ahead.
just had one question. You said that for kids, obviously, nutrition is very important. And there are few foods that can increase the kapha dosha. So if you would just like to name two or three, what are these kind of foods that might increase this kapha dosha?
Sure, it is very important question. Food which is highly processed, food loaded with the sugar, food which is sticky in nature, heavy to digest, processed food like you can say processed cheese, mayonnaise, then canned fruit juice, sodas, too much sweets, chocolates, candies, cookies. All these food that children are fond of, unfortunately, can increase the kapha. So parents have to be very aware, and there has to be some limitations for consumption of this food. Rather, this food should be replaced by the good options. For example, fruit juice can be easily replaced by the fruit smoothie, freshly prepared fruit smoothies. Ice creams can be replaced with the good amount of good yogurt. And definitely we should keep away from the processed food, because it is not going to help in any way. Rather, it is creating hidden inflammation in children, which in turn will be very harmful in their growing age. So, it's not about only kapha dosha, it's about inflammation, it's about trans fat, it's about how they are silently injuring the foundation of children health. Rather, how they are creating environment where children can suffer chronic disorders in later age. So, that's why kapha dosha is important.
Okay, great, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, let's move on to the women's health.
Yeah, absolutely. And Smarty, most of the times we say that, women are the CEO of family
Mm.
health. And unfortunately, many of us are running on 2% battery. So it is
Okay.
important. It is important for all of us to understand. Many times I observe in my practice, in my family, and in my friend circle also, that it is not it is not the thing that women are not worried about their health, but many times they give less importance to them, they place themselves last, you know so this is very natural tendency for women. And I guess there is what do you say, there is a nice announcement in flight that, before helping others in the cabin to wear the oxygen mask, you should wear the mask first, because you also need oxygen to survive. And many times women are just trying to save all the cabin but themselves. So I guess it is high time for women to understand We are busy in careers, raising the families, raising the kids, relationships. We want to be on the top of everything. We want to look good. We want to be active in social media. And by doing so, we are sacrificing our nutrition. We are sacrificing our sleep. We are sacrificing our mental balance, rather emotional balance. And for women, I will definitely want all of women to hear the truth that please bring attention to your food. Stop eating food which will cause inflammation. Uh, Stale food, preserved food. Most of the times we are just avoiding that. Okay, I can't just throw away that food, so let it reshuffle into something another dish, and let's finish the food up. And most of the times these are the women in the family who are subjected to the stale food, and they are happy about it. So this is very wrong. Try to consume food which is very clean, which is rich in vitamin C, because vitamin C is very important in women. It is very much closely associated with the hemoglobin level, folic acid. So try to concentrate on food which is loaded with the antioxidants also. So amla, pomegranate, berries, strawberries, raisins, garcinia fruit, which is kokum fruit, which is very easily available. So these are very nourishing food for women. Women should definitely concentrate on a protein rich food but easy to digest. So variety of protein, plant based protein, or if you are non vegetarian, definitely animal based protein can also be opted. But make sure that timings are regular. uh, Meal should be according to your life stage also. If you are a growing teenager girl, then food should be very rich into the calcium, iron, magnesium, potassium, and vitamin C. Same goes with the perimenopausal women. They need vitamin D, they need calcium, they need vitamin K in much larger quantities compared to the young women. So all these things are important. At the same time, Ayurveda advocates women health and meditation for sure. So meditation is important. Hobbies are important for women health. And there are many Ayurvedic protocols, many Panchakarma therapies, which help a lot in balancing the age-related issues, hormonal issues, stress-related issues, gut inflammation, etc. So basically, rest, recovery, and gut health. These are the three important things women should definitely take care of.
Rest, recovery, and gut health. Amazing, amazing. So I am sure our audience will are going to benefit from your tips. So Rupali ma'am, moving forward as a closing note, uh, overall, I would like to know from you, you know, 10 things that one should follow. I mean, let's go, bottom top order, 10, 9, 8, 7, and number one, that everyone should follow, the complete human race, the Manushya Prajati needs to follow and start doing it now if you want a, I would say, not sustainable, it's a healthy life. I mean, whatever, what we say, it add life to your days, not days to your life. So to live that kind of life, what are those 10 things that we should start doing now?
Absolutely. First of all, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. That is
Most
the
important.
basic step for your mental health. Second, I will say that never hold your natural urges. So, natural physical urges are hunger, tear, coughing, sneezing, then, burps, um, bowel movement, urination, ejaculation. So, there are 13 natural physical urges that Ayurveda advocates one should not hold. So, even thirst. So try to understand those urges and try to fulfill them on time. If you are not paying attention to your physical urges, that means you are not connected with your body. And when you are not connected with your body, definitely you are creating a favorable environment in your body to create diseases. So be mindful about that. I have written lots of things about these natural urges in my books and online blogs also. So I will not go into the depth. Coming to the third, rather seventh point, I will say mental urges are also very important. But Ayurveda says that you have to be mindful with the mental urges. You should not fulfill all the mental urges. Some mental urges are like grief, fear, anger, violence, revenge, jealousy. So all these are your natural mental urges, but you have to stop. You have to take a break. You have to think whether it is necessary for me to express this mental urge, or I can modulate that urge into the positive feeling. So unlike physical urge, you don't have to fulfill your mental urge. So it is very important, and I guess this is extremely important for as a part of parenting also. As I mentioned that I'm writing a book on child health and Ayurveda, I have given much of the pages dedicated to these things, that try to explain your child about physical urges, try to tell them about their mental urges, so that they can identify their feelings, they can identify their physical urges, and they can bring the balance in terms of physical and mental health. Um, Going or moving forward, try to understand how season can impact your body.
How
Ayurveda talks about
season.
Rutucharya.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So every season has different impact on your body as well as mind. Why we are feeling gloomy and depressed in the harsh winter, and why it is suddenly very energetic and pleasure in when rain is there, or spring or summer starts. So because um, five elements, earth, water, fire, space and wind, they are extremely connected with your physical body, and changes in external environment have amazing impact on your internal environment also. So try to understand that relation, Panchamahabhutik relation. And if you are aligned with the season, if your diet, if your lifestyle is aligned with the season, it is a very favorable thing you are doing for your body. And we Ayurveda, in our Ayurveda doctors in our practice, we teach our clients how to cope up with the seasonal changes, what food you should follow in different seasons. Rather, Smarty, I'm really very happy to announce here that for 2026 I have launched a Ayurveda digital calendar. So
Wow.
it talks about different seasons and which dosha is increased. So you can just go online and download that calendar, and you will find recipes for that particular season. You will find a lifestyle modification for that specific
In
season.
that calendar itself?
Yes,
In
it's a
that,
digital calendar. You
wow.
just have to download it, and you will see that, okay, in the month of April or in the month of July, what food is suitable for my body, what spice combination will enhance the balance in my doshas. So Ayurveda holds a treasure of knowledge. We just need to understand it properly. Rather, Ayurveda is the perfect science for modern world and modern world problems. Now, going forward, Dinacharya is the backbone of your health. Epigenetics is a branch which talks about how sleep, how your behavior, how your daily activities, how the environment can shape up your genes. So your genetic material have can be changed by the impact of external environment, and you need
Oh.
to understand that. Yes, if I'm going to walk on a certain time, if I'm sleeping at a certain time, these very small daily activities have tremendous impacts on my genetic material. So Ayurveda understands that concept of epigenetics. Rather, Ayurveda has stated the concept of epigenetics in terms of Rutucharya and Dinacharya. So, um, on the occasion of this podcast, I will like to, encourage all listeners to know about Dinacharya, how they can just invest 15 minutes of their day every day and bring so much positive changes in terms of good health and good energy levels. So, Dinacharya will be my fifth um, inclusion in the 10-step health ladder, I will say. Sixth will be food again, but I'm not concentrating only on healthy food, but food which is compatible with your prakriti. If I am vata
Hmm.
prakriti, then my food should nourish my vata. That food should not imbalance the vata. So know your Prakriti, know your unique body type. It's a wonderful concept, and you should know your Prakriti for sure. And Ayurveda doctor will help you to design your diet according to your Prakriti. So diet according to Prakriti is very important. Um, I will say seventh, or rather, what do you say? Third most thing is, yeah, invest some time to understand your sense organs, to take care of your sense organ, which is very important. I already talked about that, but I will include the care of sense organ in top three steps for your health. Then do not disturb your biological clock. Try to sleep on same time. If you are not a student which have to stay awake in the night, if you are not a professional who whose job wants them to stay awake in the night, always take benefit of timely sleep is important, I will say. And the topmost thing, I will say that connect your body, mind, and soul together, because they are constant in conversation with each other. At the same time, um, gut health should be on top, because Ayurveda says that your gut is the root of your body and mind. If it is nourished well, because it is the site which is producing every organ. So that chapati or that sandwich I'm eating today, it is going to convert into the blood. It is going to convert into the muscle. It is going to convert into the bone tissue. Forget about bone tissue. It is somewhat convert into the sperm and ovum, right? So that food is carrying qualities up to your tissues,
Wow,
right? The
this is so
quality of
important.
some, the quality of ovum is decided by the food you are eating today. So be mindful with your food. And uh, uh, food is, I mean, it's an endless topic. I'm taking 7 courses on only Ayurveda nutrition in America. So you can imagine how endless this topic can go further. But I am happy to present this 10-step ladder for all of us.
Beautiful. I think I understand that now gut, it seems like more important than the original brain. I would keep it first and then I'll keep our real brain at number point two. It was gut was always said, it was said that gut, treat your gut as the second brain. But over here, after listening to you, I will call it as the first brain because first seems like it's controlling everything. And ma'am, you talked about your digital calendar. Please do provide us the link. I would love to, mention it in the description and provide the benefit of that digital calendar to my audience. It's going to be really helpful. It has been such an enriching discussion, and I feel there are so many things that I got to know, and I think I need to identify myself. One last question in this 10-step ladder. I would like to understand because what I understood of the whole conversation was it's very important for everyone to know about their Prakriti. How can I identify my Prakriti? How can my audience identify their Prakriti?
It is very easy to know your Prakriti, because there is a very elaborate questionnaire about your how you look, how you walk. Right now I'm having conversation with you, but in my mind I have already started noticing your Prakriti. So the way you are smiling, the way you are asking the question. So phenotype, genotype, your metabolic type, these are the criterias which help us to understand your dosha prakriti. The way your skin, the texture of your skin, the color of your hair, the texture of your hair, the color of your eyes, the shape of your eyes, the shape of your teeth, and bone musculature. So all these physical characteristics help us to understand dosha, physical traits. At the same time, how is your digestion? How is your sleep pattern? How is your nature? Whether you are calm, whether you are aggressive, dominant, whether you are quick, whether you give quick responses, whether you move your hand and body very much, that also helps us to understand the dosha prakriti. And again, the way you, the way your body responds to certain food or certain weather can also help us to understand the prakriti. So if somebody wants to understand their own prakriti, it is very easy. There are many prakriti related forms available on they can just Google it. But I will say that one should always contact Ayurveda doctor and talk about your Prakriti. It will be a very interesting experience for everyone to know, because when you sit across the Ayurveda doctor, they will tell you some things even you don't know about yourself, and you will be
Absolutely.
very surprised to know these things, and you will wonder how it is possible. But that is just your dosha telling about yourself.
Beautiful. It is such an enriching conversation, and I'm sure I'm going to definitely, work and try to identify what my Prakriti is, and request all my audience to do it and take the benefit of your digital calendar. So Ayurveda is a beautiful science. I would say it's a lifestyle that has its design. I mean, it's how we are. It's just that someone has put it in the books. It is how we are and how we react to things, and it's all that knowledge has come into books. So it's I don't think it's important. I would say it is mandatory for us, all of us, to know it. It's a science of our being. So go ahead and understand it. Take the benefit of the knowledge which is present in the universe. Thank you so much, Rupali ma'am, joining us today. Thank you so much. Such a beautiful conversation it was.